It is my distinct pleasure to introduce my dear friend, HRC President, Chad Griffin.
Thank you. Ah, wow, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you so much, Justin, for that kind introduction. He truly has gone to someone who worked for me to being one of my bosses. Remember where you came from, Justin. It feels really good to be home in Los Angeles. I want to start tonight by thanking everyone in our Los Angeles HRC family who make this phenomenal evening possible. Your gala co-chairs tonight, Gwen, Chris, and Travis. This, by the way, is Gwen Baba's 7th gala to co-chair for HRC. Your leaders on HRC's National Board of Governors, Thomas Macias, Lisa Marchbanks, Richard Myers, Bonnie Uphold, Thomas Cowley, David Lottie, Cody Martin, and Dan Slater. You have a lot of leaders. And also your leaders on HRC's National Board of Directors, Gwen Baba, Chris Boone, and Justin Makita again. And we're also honored to be joined by some of our other leading directors from across the country, Andy Linsky, Steve Sorensen, and Paul Thompson from Orange County, Long Beach, and Palm Springs, as well as Tom Kovac, who's here from Las Vegas. And last, but certainly not least, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. Because of you, supporters, advocates, community leaders, business leaders, philanthropists, and elected leaders alike, we all have so much to be proud of. Our country has made remarkable progress for equality over these last several years. From the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, to landmark hate crimes laws, yes, even to that historic decision by the United States Supreme Court that finally brought marriage equality to all 50 states in this country. But here's the thing. Despite all the progress that we've made, you don't have to look beyond the borders of this state to know that some of our biggest challenges still lie ahead of us. Even in California, a state that has led the nation when it comes to equality, far too often we hear of good, honest, hardworking people who come up against roadblock after roadblock. Roadblocks that exist because of prejudice and bigotry and discrimination. Even in California, HIV continues to ravage our community. Even in California, thousands of LGBT young people have been rejected and have been cast out by their own families. And tonight, many of them will sleep on the streets all across this state. Even in California, transgender people endure a daily struggle for survival and unimaginable violence simply for living their truth. So yes, we've won many battles, but until all LGBT Americans in this state and across our country can live their lives free from discrimination and violence, our work is far from over. Because today in most states, a majority of states, a couple who gets married at 10 a.m. is at risk of being fired from their jobs by noon and evicted from their home by 2, all in the same day, simply for posting their wedding photos on Facebook. In 32 states across this country, lawmakers are pushing 190 anti-LGBT bills that shamefully try and disguise prejudice and discrimination as religious freedom. Just this week in Georgia, We saw one of these hateful bills pass the legislature in the dark of night, and now it sits on Governor Deal's desk for his signature or his veto. We've rallied thousands of fair-minded Georgians to stand up and to speak out against this bill. We're organizing major American corporations to urge the governor to veto this bill. And just yesterday, the NFL announced that Atlanta's bid for the Super Bowl is in jeopardy if this bill becomes law. But we're not done yet, and we need your help. I know that we have many entertainment industry leaders in the room tonight. And like other states, Georgia offers tax incentives for TV and for film productions. And as many of you know, as a result of that, the entertainment industry has a huge economic footprint in the state of Georgia. But if this bill is signed into law, your employees, your contractors, all those working on your production are at risk of state-sanctioned discrimination. That's wrong, it's un-American, and it's affront to the values that Hollywood prides itself on. And you have the influence and the opportunity to not only defeat this bill, but to send a message that there are real consequences to passing dangerous and hateful laws like this. And so tonight, we're asking you to join us as we urge TV and film studios, directors and producers to commit to locating no further productions in the state of Georgia if this bill becomes law. I've talked to many of you already. I know you agree, so we're going to be looking for you to stand up and to join us in the days to come. No pressure. Now, make no mistake about it. There's no religious freedom crisis in this country. The First Amendment is alive, and it is well. But there is a crisis of discrimination, where in most states today, LGBT people are still at risk from being fired from their jobs and evicted from their homes simply for who they are. And that's why we've got to pass the Equality Act in Congress and fight like hell for full federal equality, nothing more and nothing less. Now, unlike a lot of legislation that rolls through Washington, this bill is really simple. It would finally ensure that gender identity and sexual orientation are protected under our long-lasting civil rights laws, right alongside race, religion, sex, and national origin. And now is the time to pass the Equality Act, but let me tell you, it's not going to be easy. Even though this bill already has the backing of a bipartisan majority of the American public, a growing number of Republican lawmakers, the business community, including many of the companies who are represented in the room tonight. But getting the Equality Act passed will truly be the biggest legislative battle in the history of our movement. And don't forget, we not only need to pass the Equality Act, we also need a president who will sign it into law. And on Inauguration Day next year, the most pro-equality president in our history will leave office, and someone with a far different view of how LGBT people should be treated could very well take his place. I agree with that. Now, the good news is we all have a say in what happens next November. We can go to the polls and we can vote for the candidates who we know will fight for us, not against us. But it's going to take a whole lot more than just those of us in this room voting on Election Day. We've got to inspire and energize every LGBT voter to not only show up and cast a vote, but also to go out and to remind their family and friends why our rights, our lives are worth voting for. We can activate the LGBT vote, all 10 million of us. And this year, that's exactly what we're going to do. Because even as a majority of Republicans and independents today support full federal equality, the Republican candidates for president, they're living in the dark ages. Truly. They've not only threatened to halt our progress, they promised to revoke, repeal, and overturn all the gains that we've made under President Obama. They've suggested we bring back Don't Ask, Don't Tell. They've urged states to ignore the Supreme Court's historic marriage ruling. They've openly mocked the fight for survival that many transgender people endure day after day. And astonishingly, in 2016, some of the Republican candidates for president still think being LGBT is a lifestyle choice, right? Doesn't that make you just wonder about that moment when Ted Cruz chose to be straight, right? That might be one choice he's made we can all appreciate. We found one. We have come too far, fought too hard, and accomplished too much to allow these pandering politicians to play politics with our rights and with our lives. And that's why we are mobilizing and organizing to elect a pro-equality champion to the White House who will fight for us each and every day she sits in that Oval Office. My friends, Hillary Clinton is that champion. HRC proudly endorsed her for president because she's the one that we can count on to build on our progress. And she's the one that we can count on to defeat whichever one of these wackadoos emerges as the Republican nominee. And they are just that. And at a time when Donald Trump is embracing bigotry and bluster, at a time when Donald Trump is embracing bluster and bigotry and using fear to stir up votes and incite violence, we should be embracing the values that have always made America great. Values like justice, equality, and the equal dignity of each and every American. And if there was any doubt just how important this election is, we were given a clear reminder earlier this week. I don't have to tell people in this room, in particular here in California, how important the Supreme Court is. We've seen what can happen when our rights are left up to a vote of the people. Time and time again, we've had to fight in the courts. We've had to fight all the way to the nation's highest court to achieve and to protect our basic constitutional rights and protections. Now, there's no doubt that Judge Garland is a highly qualified candidate. President Obama has done his job, and now it's time for Senate Republicans to do theirs, right? Because America deserves. It's time for them to do their job because America deserves a full Supreme Court bench, and the president's nominee deserves a hearing. The fact is, everything that we fought for and everything that we're still fighting for, it's on the lines this election. And that's why we're already at work executing an unprecedented mobilization effort, opening offices and deploying staff and volunteers in key battleground states so that we can make certain all across this country that voters know exactly who's going to fight for us, who's going to fight for full equality, and which candidates are going to stand in our way. But at its core, this fight of ours has always been about more than just electing a president or passing a law. It's about continuing to change hearts and to change minds in order to create that more just and that more equal world that we all seek. The simple truth is that if we're here in this room tonight, it's because we're the lucky ones. We're the lucky ones. And while it may be easy for us to dismiss the voices of Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, and Tony Perkins as the tired rantings of a distant past, what we can never, ever forget is that there are countless young people here in this city, across this state, and around this country for whom those aren't the voices of their past. These are the voices of their present. And I promise you that HRC will keep fighting every single day until we guarantee that they are no longer the voices of their future. My friends, our biggest victories are still ahead of us. And with your continued support and leadership, we will keep fighting for a better future for these young people. We'll keep fighting for the lesbian couple raising 2 kids in Birmingham, and for the transgender woman in Baltimore who wakes up every single day fearing it could be your last. We'll keep fighting for that gay teenager that's living on the streets of this very city with HIV. We will keep fighting until their future, your future, America's future, is one where LGBT people can live in pursuit of happiness with the liberty and the justice they so deserve. That, my friends, is what HRC is all about. Thank you very much.